Right, in this video we're going to look at account setup specifically for supplier or dealer accounts. So we're going to go into this My Business tab and we're going to look at the business details, things like users very briefly, as well as the business setup. Now within business details, a lot of the information we hold here is very, very straightforward. So things like the name, ABN, the emails, addresses, all that kind of stuff is very, very, very straightforward. The use of this within Buildxact is that when you send out a document like a bill of quantities or a quote request, we will use all of this information to populate that. So this is what adds your brand and your information to outgoing documents from the software. I want to make special mention of two parts of this that are especially relevant to suppliers and dealers. The first of this is the registered email. So not so much your registered email, because you can't change that. In fact, that's something that you would need to contact our support team if you did need to make changes to that, and you can contact us via the little explore button and send us a message. But the reason for noting this specifically is if you go down the track of connecting your account with your builder's accounts or your customer's accounts, there may be times when you're asked for the email of that customer's account. Now, the registered email is the email that we use to identify a builder's or a Buildxact user's account. So anytime we want to know the email relevant to your customer, it's going to be the registered email as per their Buildxact account. So if you're not sure, go and ask the customer. They should know what the registered email is, but if they don't, then you can simply guide them to go into My Business and look for it here. But yeah, the main takeaway here is that this is the main ID for a Buildxact account, and especially when we're connecting two accounts together, this is the email address that we're using as that unique identifier. The other thing I really want to make mention to is the so-called merchant settings. Now, this is quite an important thing. So I'm going to flick over to a builder's account for a moment. Just refresh that. So this is, I've gone from my supplier's account, which is the one that you'll access, to a linked builder account. So I've already connected these two accounts, and we'll talk more about that in other videos. But under integrations, you are visible to your customers and to our Buildxact customers. And there's a little tile, as we call it, that presents your information. Now, this tile is controlled by these merchant settings, i.e. the name, the description, the reference, whether it's displayed at all, is all controlled by this. So I'm going to run through and just explain a little bit more about what the settings here do. Name, that's a really obvious one. That's what you're going to be called. The description, this is a small blurb that we will present. It just helps people identify what you do, and it's specifically good for saying, hey, this is the type of material we supply, or this is a bit about our history, this is a bit about us. So it just helps you promote yourself a little bit when people are browsing through the different tiles. Merchant reference. Now, this one is a really interesting one. So when we have a Buildxact user connect with you, we ask them for a unique ID to identify themselves. Now, the default is we use one of your IDs, i.e. a customer number is our default, but not all suppliers have a customer number, or if they do, it's not always shared with the customer themselves. So you basically have the option to change this. And what I'm going to do now is actually bring across my screen and just bring across the builder screen and just talk to this some more. So I'm going to disconnect from this and reconnect to my DNC Timber. It's this field here. So when the builder first connects to you, they will be requested to put in a a customer number, and you can change what type of information they're putting in. So an example here is if, for example, you don't use customer numbers, you might say, email as registered with us. Or if you have, a card number, you might say membership card number. The whole point of it is pick an ID that's going to be meaningful to your customer, and also something that you're going to have on your database or against that customer's details, so that you can figure out and match that customer to who they are, based on something that's really not going to change. Is displayed. This is a massive one. So this actually controls whether that little tile shows at all. And the use case for this would be if you're just setting this up and you're tinkering with it and you're not really sure that you want to be public yet, you can actually say is displayed no, and that removes the tile completely from view. Note that it will need to be on if people are going to find you and connect with you. Lastly, logo. That's an obvious one again. The logo is just what shows on that tile when people are looking for you. Beautiful. Now, the other two areas I want to briefly mention are users. And this is a very generic one. This is really to say that for your account, you will be advised on how many seats or how many free spots you have. And you can use the plus to go and add more people. And this pretty much just goes through the process of sending them an email, inviting them in, having them set a password, and they will then have access to the same account as you. Business setup. This is worth a mention as well. This relates to drop-downs, so little menus throughout the software, i.e. if you are going through and using the estimates area, we will be asking you what type of work or what type of quote you are doing, and you can change the presets here. You can change the presets for how clients are hearing about you. If you want to put in things like your different sales team and track who is actually getting those leads through the door. You can change things like the way we group your suppliers or contacts in here. So this is more for your own contacts. So if you are dealing with external trust companies or your own suppliers and you want to have them in here, how we group this. And a specific mention to supplier groups, I highly advise against changing this, simply because this controls things like the terms and conditions that we use in the purchase order area. Lucky last, tax rates. This should be correct for you out of the box, but if it's not, I would suggest you jump into Explore, FAQs, and have a look through the articles on setting up your tax profile. And if you get really stuck on this, contact our support team and we can help you with this. But for the majority of suppliers that we deal with, this should be correct out of the box. Fantastic. Hopefully that helps you set up your account initially and understand the setup of it a little bit better.